What was I thinking? Dating a woman with three kids from two different men. Usually, I do not date single moms because if I have kids in my life for longer than a few hours, I want them to be mine. But this time, I made an exception because I had a huge crush on this woman back in the days when I was 20 years old. And then I met her again. She was one of the most beautiful girls I've ever met in my relatively short life as a 20-year-old. And not only was she beautiful, she was also a musician. She was a singer and songwriter and played the guitar. Blonde, tall, some cute freckles, blue eyes, sporty, she had it all. How could one not fall in love with such a girl? So, what happened back in the days was we played in a band together for a couple of months. And as soon as she was in the band, the rehearsal sessions were not so much about the music anymore. They were more about looking at her and listening to her singing. I guess the whole band had a crush on her. Actually, I'm not guessing, I'm pretty sure that was the case. Of course, with such a girl in the band, the project was doomed to fail. A beautiful girl in the band is a trigger for conflict among the boys. One time at the party, it happened that we kissed. It was just one kiss. We were very drunk, but that's what teenagers do when they party. They just kiss each other. However, that kiss made me fall even more in love with her. But of course, who would have thought it? She had a boyfriend who was in the other room while we were making out. So it was kind of a secret kiss. So after a few months of having her in the band and doing a few gigs together, she once came to the rehearsal and she looked like something was wrong. So something was weird. She looked at us in a very serious way and then she said,
Guys, I need to tell you something. I got pregnant.
Bang.
I guess we all felt like there would be knives just staggered in our hearts at the same moment. No one said anything. And then someone said, congratulations, I guess. That broke our hearts. All our dreams have been killed. The hot girl in the band was pregnant. But not from any one of us, but from some skater, hip-hop, gangster idiot we hardly knew. Her boyfriend. That guy was an asshole. You could tell by just looking at him. And of course, the most assholey thing about him was that he got her pregnant. She was only 19 years old. And of course, after a couple of weeks of pregnancy, she left the band. That was it. The band was still there, but we were all heartbroken, depressed, disillusionized, and the worst thing was she was gone. And as soon as she had left our band, less people came to the gigs, and then the band split up. That asshole boyfriend of hers did not only take her, he also killed the band. Looking back from now, if she had become the girlfriend of one of us, that would probably have destroyed the band as well. Fun fact, she named her son after the band. So 20 years later, or 25 years later actually, I had long forgotten about that girl in the band. So maybe I was remembering her from time to time, but she had been gone a long time ago. But then one night, I scrolled through Instagram and suddenly there was a picture of a woman that somehow looked familiar. Hey, her name. And that was her. That was the blonde woman I played in the band 20 years ago. And of course I texted her. I wrote like, hey, excuse me, didn't we play in the band together? On the next day the answer came, oh, it's you, blah, 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 blah. Hey, it looks like we're living in the same neighborhood. I can tell by your pictures. Let's go for a coffee. So at this point, I had no idea of her life or her family or her kids or anything. I mean, I knew about the one kid, but I had no idea that she had two other kids as well. So for me, that was not a date. It was just meeting up with an old friend to talk about life and find out what happens and so on. We haven't seen each other for like over 2 decades. By the way, it can be lots of fun to meet someone you haven't seen for a very long time. It can be surprising, but it can also be disappointing and pretty weird. In this case, it was just nice. We met in late summer in a coffee house in our neighborhood. So I dressed up to make a good impression. Women judge you by your looks immediately. If you appear slubby on such a date, you will disappoint her. So I was sitting there waiting for her, dressed up, a little bit nervous, and there she was. Jesus, she looked just like back in the old days. She even wore the same clothes. She won the award of the worst dressed woman I have ever had a date or a meeting with, but still she looked pretty beautiful. It didn't really matter what she wore. If women look really beautiful, it doesn't matter how their clothes are. She was such a lady. I picked an upper class coffee house actually, which felt a bit weird, sitting there with a woman dressed in torn jeans and a washed out hoodie and fat hair. I felt a bit insulted. I really took some effort to appear properly after all these years, but she didn't. In fact, one of the first things she said was, "Excuse me for showing up like this, but I'm pretty stressed, I work all day and I have 3 kids. It's like bang. In the first sentence, she revealed to me that she had 3 kids. So before I've even been asking, what's your situation? It's like 3 kids, okay, wow. Yeah, and they are from 2 different men. Wow, again. I thought, okay, just because they are from 2 different men doesn't mean there are less kids, right? There's still 3. Yeah. So she ordered tea or something, and we started talking about the good old days. In every third sentence, she would mention how hard her life was. Being one of 5 siblings, there was no money from her divorced parents, and she had to make it all alone. The loser father of her first child didn't make any much money either, and so she worked as a charwoman, cleaning other people's homes. Of course, she got sexually harassed many times. A young woman cleaning your apartment, yeah, you can imagine. And one couple she was working with even got divorced because the husband was looking at her ass all the time. So one time she got a 500 euros tip and got asked to clean something else this time, and so on and so on. Pooh, a humiliating job. But since she broke up with her firstborn's father, she had to make a living and found out that she made good money cleaning. So she did it. So like about 3 times as much per hour as I got paid in an architectural office when I was working as a 21-year-old. When I addressed this, she said something like, when I addressed this and said, I got less money working in an office than you did cleaning, I almost ruined the chat. So I asked her about the other father of the other 2 kids, and that guy was not a loser, but he was an asshole. He made tons of money and worked in Switzerland. They got married and then divorced. He would only see the kids a couple of weeks a year and mostly spend time with them on vacation. He bought them business class flight tickets and checked them into luxury hotels. So then back home they were complaining about how miserable their real life with their mom is, and it's so much better to be with daddy on holidays as they get everything they want all the time. But besides taking his kids on vacation, he didn't pay anything for them. He abandoned them basically. So why did you get divorced? I asked. She said he was violent to me, he hit me and abused me, and he used drugs. Oh, okay, so that was a reason to break up. But is he good to the kids? Yes, because he knows if he does anything, he will never see his kids again. Fair enough. So I understood that neither for the kids nor for her this is an easy situation. So what do you do now for a living? I asked. And she's like, I work for a casino. A casino, okay. Well, turns out that this woman who never studied or did any other education after school got the job in some iffy casino, and like for 20 hours work per week, she earned twice as much that I did with 40 hours. Again, I thought beautiful women have it so much easier in life, but I didn't speak it out this time. I just accepted it. Fair enough, this woman doesn't have it easy. She has a well-paid job, obviously. Meanwhile, I know that every 20-year-old hot waitress can make far more money than every average academic. So, 3 kids from 2 men, and both men idiots in their way. Congratulations. If such a thing happens to an idiot woman, I would not wonder. But she was a great woman. She was intelligent, ambitious, beautiful, and I was pretty sure that she was really a good mother. She was like sewing clothes, and she still sings and plays the guitar, and I had the impression that she did everything to make the life for her and her kids as good as possible. So it really made me wonder why such a woman would have kids with such idiots. We ordered a bottle of wine and the conversation continued. I told her about my life. See, that was interesting. Usually women let you talk first because they want to check if you are even worth talking to them. They need to find out whether you are a sociopath before they would tell you actually anything private about them. But not this one, because the connection was already there and we already knew each other. So I told her I was studying fine arts and architecture. Finished both, worked as a photographer, as an architectural engineer, played in a couple of other bands, had my own band, was a musician until my early 30s. I traveled all over Europe, to the United States, I've been to Southeast Asia and even to Japan and North Africa, etc., etc., etc. So I told her what I did in the last 20 years. And that made her jealous. She used every opportunity to mention she could not do all that because she had 3 kids. And renting an apartment in a nice neighborhood is expensive, and 3 kids are expensive, and the alimony is not that much, and her asshole ex-husband doesn't really support them, blah 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 and so on. She was jealous of me having a great life, basically. I mean, I told her I had many girlfriends, but I still don't have any kids, and I'm pretty happy about it, actually. I'd rather have no kids than being divorced, and this is certainly not good for the kid either, and it doesn't make a man's life easier, because it's mostly the man who pay the alimony. She didn't like what I just said, so there was some aggressions towards me after I've said that. So no wonder, but I just told the truth. So you must make lots of money as an architect then, she asked me. Well, I said, architecture is an exploiting system. You only make money when you're on top, and getting on top in a country where there's 8 times as many architects as needed, hard, She seemed to be a little bit disappointed with me not being super wealthy. Well, Chanel. So after all these towns, I guess we both decided we like each other anyway. None of us had it really easy in life, but none of us had it especially hard. Life is what it is. We did some deep talk at the end of this evening, and I agreed to meet her again when she asked me. She wanted to meet my dog, and I said I wanted to see her kids, especially the firstborn, who was named after the band. Before I continue, if you like this episode so far, why not give it a like? You can also subscribe to the channel to see me again, and if you want to support me and my channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. Okay. We did not talk it out, but it was pretty obvious that the second meeting would be an actual date. And there I was. I would have a date with a hot and single mom with 3 kids from 2 different men, and she was my teenage crush. What a situation. So I was thinking, hey, cool. But on the other hand, I thought, how desperate am I? On the other hand, I felt sorry for this woman, and I still found her attractive. I had an inner conflict. I really liked this woman, and the old feelings I've been having for her, they started to come back. But I always wanted my own kids, my own family, and no second-hand wife. So deep down I knew that this woman was not the kind of woman I was looking for, judged by her circumstances, but judging her as a woman with a big heart and a beautiful body and a lovely smile, she was exactly the woman I was looking for. Weird. So we met again and we went on a hike in the woods with my dog. And that walk was a disaster. The weather was bad. My dog always sunk in the swamp, so I had to pull her out and I got like wet up until the knees. And I had to walk back home with wet shoes and wet feet in the cold. So of course I caught the cold. So the weather was so bad that my nose ran all the time, and that hike was certainly no occasion for any first kiss after 20 years or anything. In my fantasy, this hike should have been incredibly romantic. Hiking through the woods with my dog and my teenage crush from back in the days in the beginning of autumn. But it wasn't romantic at all, the weather ruined it. What was meant to be a first date more or less was a therapy session. She told me even more about her life and used me basically for a waste bin for all her bad thoughts and frustration. When the day was over, I put the whole thing in doubt. Yes, we did something together and had a talk, but besides her frustration, everything, okay, it was a nice adventure, but I still hadn't seen her kids, and it was pretty obvious that she didn't care much about my dog. Note, my dog is like my kid. She is my own family. I expect the same interest in my dog that is expected from me in the kids of a single mom. And even if this interest is faked, it is at least a form of respect to pretend some interest, even if it's not there. Being around 40 years old, there's no more time to play any games. It's either a match or it is not. And it was clear to me that if something happens between us, it wouldn't be just a one-night stand or a hookup relationship, because both of us, it was pretty obvious that we were looking for a real relationship. And when you are a woman with 3 kids, these 3 kids are there. You can't hide them forever. So a few days later, she invited me to her apartment. The 2 younger kids were in Switzerland with her father, but the firstborn was there. So we met. I liked him immediately. He was a polite and handsome young man, a bit shy and reserved, but respectful, and after a few minutes of small talk about his life, he went into his room and left us alone. It seems that he was used to such kind of situations. So there I was. I basically felt like a pervert. There was this 18-year-old man, and I was the old dude who would visit his mother to play guitar and sing with her. That was the reason for her invitation. So we did play the guitar and we sang. On our walk in the woods, I mentioned that I was a fan of Lana Del Rey. So she had studied a Lana Del Rey song, Summertime Sadness, and she performed it for me. It was the first time in many, many years that I heard this woman sing, and it was a magic moment. So somehow a dream came true. I was alone with this woman in the room and she would sing for me. Wow. But somehow I couldn't really enjoy it because I was overthinking the whole situation. Her firstborn son was just in the next room. And after she finished the song, she invited me to sit next to her. So we could read from the same note sheet and so on. So that would have been the moment for the first kiss, but this first kiss didn't happen. I blew it somehow. So as we said goodbye, she said, "Your son distracted you a little bit, didn't he?" And she said that with a tone of disappointment, but she also looked at me like I was the biggest loser. I disappointed this woman, she wanted to make out, but I didn't do anything. So after I left, I didn't hear from her for a few weeks. Then suddenly, relatively late at night, I got a call. She called me, she was drunk, and she told me about how much she enjoys kissing and cuddling. So this was probably an invitation to hop right over in that moment, like a booty call, or how do you call it? But as always, with such sudden actions, I just wasn't spontaneous enough, and I do not feel comfortable when drunk women call me and want me to come over. So that could... Also, she sounded so drunk, there was a slight chance she could end up in the toilet vomiting before I even arrived. Not very romantic. So I just talked to her a little bit on the phone and then made some excuse and said, sorry, my dog needs to get out, see you soon, something. Oh God, I disappointed this woman for the third time. Meanwhile, I had talked to two of my close female friends about her. One said, go get her. Doesn't matter that she has kids. At least she's the same age as you and not some 10-year younger bitch you used to blah blah blah. Serious relationship, blah blah blah. She's your teenage crush. Go on, get her, get her. And the other close friend said, are you sure? Do you have any idea what it means to live with 3 kids? I have only 1 kid, but if I was a single mom, I wouldn't have any time to date anyone. You must be aware that you will never be a priority in this woman's life. So my inner struggle continued, but still, she did not give up and someday invited me to go with her on a walk with her 2 younger kids. So, she was opening up. And after a few minutes of this walk, it became pretty obvious why she was hiding them from me. I mean, the daughter was nice, very calm and reserved, no problem. But the other son, Jesus, he had it all. A loud voice, he would constantly talk, he obviously hated me. He was telling me about the stuff his dad has and asked me if I had this stuff as well. So the dude was a disaster, annoying, choleric, latently aggressive, and just very, very loud and much too much energy. Jesus. After that walk, I understood why she wouldn't show me her kids earlier. And it also became pretty clear that I cannot become part of this family. And I have too much respect for a single mom with 3 kids who has a hard life that I would just use her for sex. Yeah, well, and this is almost the end of the story. So now we haven't been seeing each other for 2 years or so. But then one time she called me up out of a sudden and we met in my local pub. So she revealed to me that she had a new boyfriend who was 10 years older, a real man who was able to take responsibility. He works in insurance and he has a good income. And then later her new boyfriend would actually appear in the pub and she introduced me. That guy hated me. He was super jealous. Then they left. So why did she do that? To show me what a loser I was? To prove me that she can do better? I guess I disappointed her because I did not jump in the bed with her after the second date when she offered me the opportunity to do so. I guess I was really overthinking it. I should have just slept with this woman and then find out if the relationship works or not, and not the other way around. So by overthinking and hesitating, I missed the only chance I had to sleep with my teenage crush. What an idiot I was. But on the other hand, who knows in what trouble I would have come. Maybe I would have made her pregnant and we will have a child together and I would become the 3rd man to pay her alimony. I have become cautious with whom I sleep with and looking back, it's a pity I didn't do it, but it probably was good for something. So, this was my experience with dating a single mom with 3 kids from 2 different men. Have you made any similar experiences? Let me know in the comments, write me a few lines. I have just a few subscribers. I will pretty much respond to everything you write down in the comments. Yeah, let me know. So, see you next time.